Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Life is Strange Before the Storm panel here at PAX West. Hopefully you're all in the right spot.
Pardon me?
You jumped the gun, Chris.
Stay put.
That's Chris Floyd, and I'm also sitting next to Zach Garris, both from Deck 9 Games. What's going on, guys?
We launched a game yesterday.
Yeah! So episode 1 is currently available, released yesterday, as Chris said. And hello to everybody who's watching on Twitch as well.
Come on, Windows.
It's okay. We're not gonna judge you for that. So speaking of launch, how did launch go? You guys super excited? You finally got to get your game, your baby out into the world?
Yeah, we've been working on this for over a year. It is overwhelming to finally get to put it in front of all of you guys, everybody, really, and share the first episode.
Yeah, when we announced the game, at E3, I think it created a lot of surprise and excitement and maybe a lot of trepidation about our team taking on Life is Strange, and we're just so excited to now finally be putting it in front of people and hearing lots of great things out there about it.
How many people in this room have played episode 1 already? It's actually a pretty decent amount. I mean, it's tough. We were all traveling yesterday, getting here to Seattle. Not everybody brought their console with. Did anybody bring their console with? Or their PC, their laptop? No one?
That'd be weird.
Okay, a couple people. It's tough. You got to pay for luggage and stuff. I get it. So it's crazy to think it was only at E3, just a few short months ago, that you guys announced this game. What are you guys most excited about when you look at the fan reaction to people who've gotten a chance to get their hands on with it? Is there any particular feedback that you've seen that you were really happy about?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were skeptical of what we were doing with the game, and I think that's a really reasonable thing, because the first Life is Strange was extraordinary. So what I've seen so far, which really is humbling and awesome, is when I see feedback on Twitter or on Reddit where people are like, I don't know why. At first I didn't understand why anyone would make a game like this. Why were they going back? Why are they making a prequel? Why would I play as Chloe? But then I played it, and oh my God, I love it. And we're getting a lot of that is really, I'm not sure how to process it. It feels really good.
We work day in and day out with really one primary thing in mind, and that's to stay true and to honor what the original Life is Strange was, and to enrich that story and those characters with what we're creating. And so when people say that, this felt like a Life is Strange game. Oh my gosh, I understand Chloe so much better. That to me is a really beautiful thing, and really says, okay, I feel like we did it.
Well, we have gotten the chance to talk about this game at panels before. I'm Andrea Renee, by the way, of What's Good Games, and I've gotten the honor to be on a couple of Life is Strange panels this summer, which has been really fantastic. And what we've had the opportunity to discuss before is Deck 9's connection to this franchise and the really unique and special relationship that you guys were able to bring into the development process when Square Enix came to you and said, hey, if we want to do this project. Zach, for you as the lead writer, what did that mean? What was that moment like to you?
I played Life is Strange before we were ever talking to Square about any kind of collaboration, a Life is Strange game or any other kind of game. I was a fan of the first game. I loved it. I played it after Episode 5 came out and devoured all of it in two settings, I think. And that's only because I started late at night with the first one. I loved it. I'd never seen anything like it, and I've been doing this for a while. And I think it was the passion and how much the developers, how much the people who made it clearly loved it, that made me love it as a player. And it was a game that took its time. So I want to make narrative adventure games, right? Like, that's what I'm interested in. So we're talking to Square Enix about what kinds of games we would make. They asked the question, what kind of a game would you make in the Life is Strange universe? And we were like, holy shit, what? And then we thought, oh, holy shit! Like, we have to make a Life is Strange game now. The bar was so high. So it was a combination of like pure joy as a creator and intense trepidation as a creator. And we've channeled both of those emotions throughout the whole process.
Chris, as from a design perspective, you guys had to approach this a bit differently than what the team, at Don't Not did with, Life is Strange, the first game. What was the hurdles that you guys, knew that you would have to overcome going into the design of Before the Storm?
Yeah, well, like I said, we knew we wanted it to feel like Life is Strange. That was really important to us. But we also knew we had Chloe Price as our main character, and we wanted players to embody Chloe. And she's so different from Max, as we all know, in her whole approach to everything. Basically, she's almost the exact opposite. Chloe's a wrecking ball. She's going to bash through things. Max is this timid, quiet little mouse of a girl. So we wanted to allow players to perform Chloe in the game, and so that made us think about both storytelling. How do we capture Chloe's world? Environmentally, how do we capture Chloe's world in some of these familiar locations, but they're 3 years earlier? And then in terms of game design, how do we let you play Chloe? How do we express Chloe in the gameplay? And that's where systems like our backtalk system and our graffiti system replacing photography, that's where those came from.
You guys also, in addition to launching Before the Storm yesterday, got to work with Daughter on the original soundtrack, which is available today.
Yeah.
Has anybody downloaded the soundtrack yet? Yeah? So what was it like working on that?
That was an amazing process, and one of my favorite things about making this game that I really didn't expect. We looked a lot at music just early on because we knew music was so important to Life is Strange, obviously. And we were looking for tracks that felt like they would work in the Life is Strange world, but again, for Chloe, we wanted to find music that fit Chloe's character. And so what you'll hear in the game is music that is a little bit edgier, a little bit more raw than what you heard in the first game. As we were finding those tracks, though, we ran across the music of Daughter, and a lot of those fit so well. And so we approached them, and we asked them, what do you think about making us the score for our game and contributing songs? And we were super, super pleased when they said yes.
And just to speak to the process of the actual composition of the score, I've never done this on a game before. What we did was we wrote descriptions of the main themes of the game, and we wrote pretty extensively about the emotional movements of the story across all 3 episodes, and we wrote character bios, and we sent that to Daughter, and we said, here's a sort of snapshot of how you should feel playing this game at these particular moments, and they composed songs around those movements. And I think that, for me, within the development process, one of the most magical moments was when we started getting those songs back from Daughter, and we would put them in these scenes that we've been working on for months, tuning the animation and the motion capture and the VO and the effects and the lighting and everything, and then suddenly the song's there. And everything just snapped into focus, and the emotional arc of any given moment would just be dialed up to 11 because of what the music was doing. It was really cool.
That's awesome. We're going to do our best to not give away any spoilers here at the panel, since it was obvious most of us haven't gotten the chance to play episode 1 yet. But clearly you guys know what all the choices are in the episode since you made the game. But seeing some of the playthroughs that have come out already and some of the streams that are happening, have any of the choices that players have made surprised you at all, or the way that they've played through scenes?
No.
You're like, I wrote this thing inside and out. There's no surprises left.
I actually, in some ways, no. It's been interesting seeing, looking at that choice screen and seeing some of the numbers, and actually having a lot of our suspicions confirmed, both where things were like really evenly split because we knew it was a tough decision, and a few where we're like, nobody's ever picked to do this, they're going to do that, and they kind of have.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully those numbers skew a little bit more as more of us get to play. I always like at the end, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, when I see the percentages, if I'm in like the low percentage, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm a rebel. Yeah. Anybody else like me? Yeah? No, the rest of you just like to go with the crowd, with the herd? That's okay. I don't judge you. It's all right. So we have another video that we wanted to show you guys, and this was a really interesting piece that you guys put together. It's called Open Letter. It's been out for a few days now, I believe. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't had the chance to watch it yet, we're going to show it to you right now.
An open letter to my best friend, Jessica.
Tyler.
Nicole.
My best friend, Ginny.
Gidge.
An open letter to my best friend, Garland.
Where to even begin?
Let me start this off by simply saying I love you. I probably don't say it as much as I should, but here it is.
It is hard to pick just one thing to say, other than thank you for making me a stronger person.
Thank you for being the wonderful person you are.
We've been through so much.
And meeting you changed my life forever.
You were this snot-nosed third grader with an oversized Pokemon shed.
It was like Christmas when you get a new puppy. But instead, I got someone I could call my best friend, my little brother.
It wasn't until we wrote that short play that I realized this is a person I need to stay around. This is someone who makes me better.
From that moment on, it was pretty safe to say it was going to be the two of us forever.
And all the small victories I've had over the years may have never happened without your support.
I laugh louder, I smile harder, I'm home.
I think what tied our bond forever, though, is when you decided that I was the friend that you would call to tell your biggest secret to.
Throughout everything in my life that has changed, rearranged, and flipped upside down, you are the constant.
Garland, your testimony is one of the most powerful things I have ever heard. Is it harder than I thought it was going to be?
I am so proud of this amazing person you have become and continue to be.
During one of the most difficult times of my life, you were the life I needed in that very moment.
You're an inspiration to my life, and I could have never made it to where I am without you being there for me in so many ways.
You helped me to keep fighting, to keep pushing, to get out and try each day.
You've been the legs to my broken heart, pushing me through and carrying me on. For that, I owe you my life.
Thank you for always setting me straight, being the family that I needed through those times, and not giving up on me.
You continue to challenge me to face the parts of myself that I love, that I hate, and that I want to be.
You have seen me at my worst and have brought me to my best.
But you are forever and always a part of me.
You anchor me in my true self. You make me feel loved.
You are my brother.
I love you. That was written by my best friend, Haley.
My best friend, Angela, she wrote this letter.
My best friend, Melvin.
My best friend Diana wrote this letter.
You got me in tears over here.
Oh. Oh my God, I fucking love you.
I needed that. Thanks. I love you too.
I'm all choked up watching it.
There's tissues under all your chairs if you need them.
So clearly this is an emotional piece of video because we all have a deep connection to somebody in our life, whether they're a teacher, a family member, a coworker, a classmate. And seeing the bond that you guys created with Chloe and Rachel kind of stirs that up in us, which, you know, obviously makes it really powerful. What was it like? Why did you guys decide to make this specific video? Why the open letter?
I think the idea expressed at the end, one person can change everything, that's been the core goal of our story for a really long time, since we really got started with the project, which I think speaks to how weird Life is Strange is as a franchise, that we can build a game around that idea. Let's make a game about that. Let's make a game about how best friends or first loves can change your life. And when we were talking to Square, I think we've worked with the core team at Square Enix that worked on the first Life is Strange. So when we were first conceiving of the story we wanted to tell, there was always a piece in the conversation of the community that sprung up around Life is Strange, and the ways in which people have resonated with the themes and the stories of the game, the characters and the relatable issues that the first game explored. And so when we were looking at going back into Arcadia Bay and going back into time and looking at Chloe as a playable character and all of the weight that comes with her and the fury and the pain that we know that she's experienced through her teenage years, a story about what one person could do for her or did do for her in the form of Rachel Amber, that just seemed perfect, just crystallized for us. So I think the live action commercial that we just saw, it's really almost a recognition of the fact that the game is what we're celebrating when we're launching it, and it's what we're sharing. But in a big way, Life is Strange is about the community that we're engaging with. And I think we wanted to show real people who really have best friends and siblings and loved ones who really did save their lives, and let them be spokespeople for what we hope the game is going to do.
Yeah, when we sort of knew pretty early on in developing the story that it wasn't going to make sense to have the rewind power in the game if Chloe's our protagonist. You know, obviously she doesn't know about the rewind power when she first encounters it with Max, and that we knew that wasn't going to be right. But we were confident that telling this story was still going to feel like Life is Strange, because it is really a story about real relationships between real, relatable people. So friendship is at the heart of the game, just for that reason. So we made that the core of the experience we tried to craft.
Did you guys pull from any personal experiences when, deciding how their relationship was going to work? If thinking back to maybe a friend that you had or a friend somebody on the team had, did they bring in any of those, real life stories?
I feel like that's a pretty universal experience, right? To have that one person, maybe, I don't know, you meet at summer camp or something like that just sort of changes the way you think. For me, in middle school, kind of a nerdy kid who maybe was thinking, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut or a scientist, and I met a friend who would keep this journal. He would write all the time. Every little experience he had, he would write things down. He would share this crazy poetry with me, and it opened my eyes to the potential of a creative life that I kind of took forward from that moment on. I wanted to be a writer for a long time, and then I just was so fortunate to kind of stumble into the games industry, where I could take these two passions of mine, a creative and a technical, and bring them together. That really set me on that path.
That's beautiful. I've never heard that. I didn't know that. For me, I look back in the last 20 years of my life, and the way I think about that period is a sort of constellation of relationships, 4 or 5 people who at different periods basically saved me or helped me in a way that I needed a really particular kind of help, and I only got it from maybe one person in one point in time.
Yeah, and I think when you think of friendship, friends come and go in our lives. You may all have, or maybe you still have somebody who impacted your life and they're, still active in your life, or maybe you had somebody from school that was really powerful for you in the way that Rachel is for Chloe, but maybe you don't talk to them anymore. Certainly for me, watching this makes me want to reach out to my old friends and be like, hey, actually, thanks. We had a thing that one time, and it was really great. We would love to hear your guys' stories, take your questions. So we do have 2 microphones on either side of the room. So if you guys have things you would like to ask about Life is Strange, about the development process, about Chloe, the thing that we want to make sure to clarify is that we want to keep this spoiler-free. So please don't ask specifics that would give away what's happening in episode 1. Don't maybe name characters who you've met in episode 1 that haven't been publicly revealed already. Just be respectful of the work, and if you didn't want it spoiled for you, you wouldn't, don't do it, essentially. Are we cool? Is everyone cool with that? Cool. So if you want to start lining up, you're more than welcome to. We're going to start taking questions in just a few minutes. But I know that you guys have been getting a lot of great response on social media, and I have to say, one of my favorites that I've seen so far in all the tweets, if you use the hashtag Life is Strange, is Arby's, one of the best Twitter accounts on the planet. Did you guys see the Arby's tweet? It's pretty good. It says lunch is strange, and it's a photo of a sandwich with 3 options to look, to take to go, or to eat. So, thanks Arby's. That's pretty excellent. And while people are still getting their questions together, I also want to remind everybody, if you didn't hear, Square Enix and Deck 9 is teaming up with my company, What's Good Games, to throw a launch party tonight. And if you didn't hear about it, it's open to the public. It's from 6 to 9 p.m. at Unicorn over in Cap Hill. The first 100 people will get 2 free drinks. And we also have some really fantastic special swag from Life is Strange. We have the vinyl original soundtrack. We've got some mugs, some pins. We have deluxe editions of the game. We have other codes just for episode 1. So we're giving away a bunch of stuff tonight. So if you want to come by, we'd love to see you. All right. So please say your name and your question.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I just want to thank you guys for the original Life is Strange. I think it emotionally resonated with a lot of people in this room, and it did for me. And so I just want to thank you first for that. And my question is about a particular facet from the first game that I hope is still present in the second game, and just your ideas or reasoning behind putting it in the first game. There's a time in the game, in several points, where you can make your character Max like lay on the bed or lay in her room and just listen to the music and just kind of think about and ruminate about the whole story and what's gone on. And I just felt that was like a really interesting facet of the game's design and allowing you to think about the story. And I just wanted to know your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we talk about those as moments of calm in the game, and that's definitely a feature that we have in Before the Storm. I think it's safe to say in some ways we're going to do some maybe unusual things with our moments of calm. You see a lot of ones that feel very familiar, but with Chloe and some of the places and situations she gets into, we still found a place for those moments of calm, but they're going to feel a little different. I think another thing to point out is we have in the deluxe edition of the game, there's a mixtape mode, we call it, where you can basically run one of those moments of calm and make a playlist of whatever songs from the soundtrack you'd like to hear, and it'll cycle through those songs while you watch the moment of calm. So a cool feature in the deluxe edition.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Ryan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I also want to just point out, some of you might not know, so we're Deck 9 Games out of Colorado. The studio that made the first Life is Strange is called Don't Nod, and they're out of Paris. So we actually didn't work on the first game. Before the Storm is our first contribution to the Life is Strange universe.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, over here.
Hi, my name's Cody. I was wondering, when you're writing and when you're creating a story, how do you think about interacting with the story to enhance the storyline?
That is the core of what the difference is between writing interactive fiction and writing film or TV or anything else. It's really hard to do. I think in good television is written structurally. Typically, you think within the structure of what an episode might look like, the act structure, and the particular arcs you want to move through each act, and that's that's a simpler way to think about it than the line-by-line way to imagine a story. Often the magic lives in the line-by-line moments. And when we're inspired by something, it's usually by a line, a dialogue line, or a really specific image that we have in mind for a scene. The structural level of thinking about a story isn't where inspiration sometimes comes, usually. But structurally is where we live when we're imagining ways in which we can create agency for the audience. I think if I'm imagining a scene from, like, what is the start, what is the end, what is the very high-level arc that's going to happen through the scene, and I can't figure out a way to give the player a really difficult decision in the midst of that arc, I scrap that version of the scene, and I start over. And I think, again, on a really high level, beginning to end, where is there room for the player to get to participate? I think the process of writing good film is often thinking of the coolest version of a moment that you can think of, and that's what you write for that scene. And when you're writing for games, you have to think discursively. You have to think, what are the coolest two things that could happen? But then, if you're really going to do it well, you have to think more. You have to think about, how does the difference between this coolest thing and this other coolest thing let the player express themselves within a larger paradigm of what the game is about? So it's a long-winded way of saying it's really hard, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of people. It takes a village.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Over here.
Hi, I'm Max, and I have a question concerning the nature of release. With segmented video games being a kind of relatively new format, they have a tendency to really slip on their release dates quite a bit. So are there any lessons that you learned from other companies, or do you have anyone on your staff who's worked in television who might, help alleviate that a bit?
Yeah,
this guy did.
That's a good question. Yeah, I worked in TV for a minute. And I mean, it really was a pretty short period of time. I worked on Criminal Minds, Beyond Borders. So yeah, TV's primetime crime procedurals are where to go if you want to see some of the best production crews in the industry work. You get 6 days to make an episode. Half of those days you're shooting on location somewhere in LA. Half of those days are in a studio. You've got to build every single set, every single prop. And then Sunday happens, and then you do it all over again. So yeah, I definitely learned a lot doing that. I think game development is kind of similar in a few ways to TV, but the tools that we work with and the technical pipelines that we have are really radically different. The sense of urgency is the same, though, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I can add a lot to that. I've worked in the games industry for 15 years, and we work very, very hard to give realistic timetables and to honor our promises for release dates. And I guess all I can say, just very, very broadly, is to the audience, like, be patient with game developers, because it's really, really difficult. If anyone works in software, you know that, like, it's very, very hard to predict how long it's going to take to make software. And now you're talking about software with a creative element to it. That's a huge, huge, huge challenge. So we really appreciate people being patient with us. But we are, I think, shaping up really well on our upcoming episodes. We're watching those really come together. We think you're going to really love episodes 2 and 3. And we're aiming at a 8 to 10 weeks release date between each of our episodes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Over here.
My name is Sydney. I was wondering if we get to see any of Chloe's parents in Before the Storm, like more character development.
Yes. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Don't want to say.
Sorry, I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, we definitely will. I think they are satellites to her, and we are really exploring who she is. So yes. Yeah.
Over here.
Hi, I'm Megan. I was reaching out because I'm curious. So you're a writer, and you write things for visual, for TV, all of that. How do you write and describe a character to someone who's audio? when you reached out to like someone like Daughter, like does it change? Is it the same? Like how do you inspire someone who's going to create art that's not visual or whatever?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the expertise that Daughter has, the expertise that is music, is the ability to take emotion and to turn it into song. So thankfully, I don't have to do that when we're communicating with Daughter. So I communicate, what we wrote to share with them, what we've talked to them about. It's the same that I would talk to a concept artist. We're talking about grief, we're talking about pain, darkness, contrast, whatever we might be doing with a given piece of music or a given scene. And it's their incredible gifts that they bring to bear to hear those words and ask a couple questions and then transmute that into their music.
Yeah, I think what worked really well in that process was letting them do their thing and knowing that they're the experts, and we just kind of gave them the grist for the mill, as it were. Thanks for your question.
And I want to let the people watching on Twitch know that if you guys have questions that you would like to ask as well, you can tweet them to me with that hashtag Life is Strange. That's at Andrew Renee on Twitter, and I will try to sneak a question in for you. All right, over here.
Hi there. I was at a PAX Dev panel, and one of the developers saying that it was very difficult for her to relate to, say, Witcher 3 because it's like an older white man, and she couldn't relate. And then I look in the crowd and how diverse it is, and the people who Twitch can't see, it's one of the more diverse gaming crowds I've seen. And you're writing a character where you're asking everyone to step in the shoes of this particular person with these particular scenes. How do you write something that people will relate to, but also not only just watch, but actively participate in as part of the story and not feel disconnected?
That's a great question. Yeah, really, really carefully.
A man of few words.
Yeah, it's called So
trust me, he's a man of a lot of words.
No, but it is a great question. I'll come at it from maybe two angles, I think. First, we don't try to write teenagers. We don't try to write women. We don't try to write bisexual women. We don't try to write any one element of how one identifies oneself. We just want to create Chloe. We focus on her, and we really ground ourselves in the questions of her character and her personality. And there are many aspects of Chloe as a character that I don't personally share. And so that's a challenge sometimes, for sure. And how we work around that challenge is I'm not the only writer in the room. We have a writer's room at Deck 9, just like a TV show. So we have 4 writers. We have 2 men and 2 women. I'm the oldest. I'm 35. The youngest writer's 20, and she's still in school. And we have a culture of open criticism. I need my writers to challenge me when they don't agree with what I'm saying. I need to challenge them. And we together have an open discourse around the work, and we talk about every line, and we talk about every aspect of the characters that we're creating. And in that way, we're leveraging the diversity we have, so that my privilege or my blind spots hopefully won't get in the way, and likewise for the other members of the team.
We also have a team, a large team of people in lots of different disciplines who we all think of ourselves as storytellers. So when the work comes to a cinematic artist or an animator, environment artists, they're all thinking about how to communicate this story and these characters as well, and giving feedback on the story all the time.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks. Great question.
Over here.
Hello.
Hello.
So, oh gosh, trying to see if I can word this question out well. So Don't Nod used multiple artists in The First Life is Strange, like Sid Matters, Fowls. Oh God, Fowls. Anyway, so how hard is it to kind of like find multiple tracks when it's like, you try and mix things up in the second episode? I won't say much about it, but like if you stuck with one artist in the second episode, then in the first one, there was multiple artists that Don't Nod chose. So why stick with one artist?
That's a really interesting question. Yeah, I think, we looked at a whole lot of musical tracks, again, looking for stuff that expressed who Chloe was, but then we had to ask the question of which of these really fit particular moments in our story. And yeah, there's some variability in those moments, but we also have an emotional arc that remains fairly consistent, and those are the moments often that we really want to underscore with music. So we just looked really carefully and just used our ears and listened and felt those songs and said, where do they fit? Which of these really hits a particular moment as we had our story sketched out? It was a challenge because the story does change over time as we're developing it sometimes, and we have to secure some of those musical rights fairly early in the process. So we have to be really attentive, and we have to know our story and understand that arc in order to get the right music. And I think people are really going to love the songs that are on the soundtrack in episode 1 and in the future episodes as well.
All right. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over here.
Hi, I'm Mimi. I was wondering, as you're approaching the game, were there any particular moments or characters or locations that from the first game that particularly inspired you when you were getting ready to start? Well, obviously, Chloe's a huge inspiration, but just kind of those moments that spoke to you.
I can say, actually, as a parent of teenagers, I really love some of our moments with Joyce. I don't think that's too much spoiler to say. We're gonna see Joyce, and some of the ways she tries to deal with Chloe, I think are really real, and I really enjoyed being able to flesh out that relationship in our game.
Was your question about the first Life is Strange?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Like when you were playing it.
Yeah. I think when Chloe and I guess we're past the point of needing to warn about spoilers for the first Life is Strange.
What do you guys think? Are we collectively past that
talk
point?
about that?
Yeah. You probably wouldn't be in this room if you hadn't played the first game, right?
Just go loud.
Yeah, so I think when Chloe and Max break into Blackwell, that was one of my favorite moments in the game for sure. I think the idea of getting up to no good felt really fun. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so excited to play it.
Thank you.
Thanks. I hope you love it.
Over here.
Hi, my name's Griffin. Looking at the first Life is Strange, Don't Nod took a lot of influence and inspiration from everything from like Twin Peaks to 60s sci-fi movies and indie teen sort of dramas. With Before the Storm, there's obviously some influences with like Fire Walk with Me and other movies like that. What are the other major inspirations and influences you took when writing Before the Storm, and like what can we kind of expect for kind of the tone and the direction that you're going with it?
Yeah. So definitely the first Life is Strange. It's kind of a shitty answer, but it's a huge inspiration. I think season 6 of Buffy.
Okay. Yeah.
Really did a lot for me in finding what we wanted to do with Chloe.
No, I mean, we talked a bit about shows like Veronica Mars when we were working on the story, that kind of high school milieu and smart girls, kind of breaking the rules.
Yeah. There's a kind of an indie YA author named Andrew Ossian who wrote a book years and years ago called JoJo and the Fiendish Lot, which is a really quirky, thoughtful meditation on how children deal with death. And I think that also was another inspiration. Check it out if you get a chance.
I beat the first episode last night, and I just want to say I'm really excited for the rest. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
very
a lot.
much.
Over here.
So one thing I noticed in the first game was Rachel was kind of presented as a mythical figure. She was good at everything. Everyone loved her. So I was wondering, was that at all sort of like challenging for you guys, sort of creating that character that lives up to the legend while still is a believable person?
You're totally right. I think the other thing we learned about her in the first game is that she had secrets. She had flaws. And she had this strong relationship with Chloe that Chloe expresses clearly how strong it was, but not necessarily the details of it. She kind of keeps that to herself. And actually, I think, and Zach can speak to this, I think that helped us a lot in terms of not feeling too, like we had to be too attached to some kind of perfect, impossible girl, but we had to find a way to make somebody who appeared to have this perfect life, appears to be the perfect person, and then find the places where she's broken and maybe can be broken by situations around her. And that gave us this sort of to allow Chloe to be herself a broken person in many ways at this time, to kind of be the strength for Rachel in this particular time. So I think that turned into a really fruitful situation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she was seemingly flawless until you learned certain things, but she was powerful, clearly powerful in the first game. Taking that power and fracturing it and finding the vulnerability in her was what felt like we cracked the code in kind of making her real. And that made when she is powerful kind of all the more exciting, and then when she's more vulnerable, more exciting too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Over here?
Hello. I just wanted to ask about your thoughts and reasoning behind leaving Teen Speak out in this Life is Strange, because I thought it was I just thought that was interesting because in the first game it was really prevalent, people saying hella and that's so serial. And I saw it as a point of criticism for some people that people were talking like that in the first game.
I mean, I think you'll find similar language in Before the Storm. Yeah, we're not shy about hella.
Good, don't be.
I was just wondering because in one part someone called someone out. I'm not gonna say who for saying hella in the game.
Yeah, we're creating a bit of an origin story there. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to spoil anything more.
Over here?
Hi, my name's Scott. My question is kind of in the first game, you have these kind of spirit animals guiding you through it. Are we going to see more of that in this game and kind of see maybe if it's Chloe's family that has some, or maybe Max in some ways?
Yeah, so we definitely don't have power for Chloe, right? She's not wielding time travel in this story, but we're not, simultaneously, we're not avoiding the supernatural at all. And this kind of totemic influence and symbology of animals and other things that you'll see throughout the first game definitely continues on in Before the Storm.
Thank you.
Before we get to your question, I want to ask one question from Twitter. At Mechanical Rune asks, in these times of Netflix and binge watching, does Life is Strange have any concerns about episodic releases and player churn?
Are you concerned, Chris?
I don't think I'm concerned. Making an episodic game is actually kind of wonderful for at least one reason, which is that all you guys, the fans, kind of get to speculate and talk about and create theories and sometimes unravel what we're actually already planning before we reveal it.
Whoops.
So, which is fantastic. I mean, that's, I think, part of the glue that keeps the community for this game together. So, just in that respect, I actually think it can be a really powerful way to release games, as much as all of us would love to binge an entire season.
Just go back and make different choices at the end.
That's right.
Right? Over here.
Hi, I'm Bree. My question...
Could you get a little bit closer to the mic? There you go.
I'm Bree. My question is about writing Life is Strange, especially Before the Storm. So Chloe is a bisexual character, I believe. Are there any bisexual writers, and are there going to be any more LGBT characters?
So it's a great question. Also, your costume is awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I don't want to speak to the sexualities of my staff, but I will say that we do have a very diverse community of devs at Deck 9. Yeah, I'll just say that to that question. There are gay characters in Before the Storm, and it's canon, and we can deal with it, I guess.
Thank you. Over here.
Hi. So I'm Jeff, and I work as a software developer. And I hear a lot about sort of agile and lean and this sort of iterative concept of development from the technical end and sort of from a business end. But I'm sort of interested from a writing end. If you guys like sort of do some writing and then try to get some feedback, or I'm sort of a little bit interested in what like the sort of writing process is for a game like this. Do you guys do like some kind of testing, or do you like release snippets of your writing and sort of see what people think about them, or is it all just you sort of hope for the best on a day like today and then anxiously watch Metacritic and hope that people appreciate the writing?
We hope for the best. That's right up. No, so that's an interesting question. We iterate a lot. Writing is rewriting, as the quote goes. I think I work with my team to bring the story from it's a question mark on a whiteboard to it's a 400-page script. And that takes a couple months. And then we share that script with other people within the studio. Sometimes we share earlier, depending on where people are at in the production schedule, but we kind of work internally quite a bit to create a version, a draft of the script. We iterate with our publisher extensively. Square Enix cares an enormous amount about this franchise, and they are deeply involved on the week-to-week basis. We're talking about what we're doing in the story. And then all the way up till the moment production starts on a given scene, we're iterating and we're polishing, and new ideas come about. And it's a constant triage of how much time do we have? Can we afford to make this change? No, we can't. Okay, it's pencils down. And then at some point, a day like today happens, and we're really done because the game's out. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Over here.
Hi, I'm Rob. My question is about release, since it's pretty fresh in your guys' mind. What's it been like over the past 48 hours, really, once you release the game? Is it a sense of fear, anxiety? Is it a sigh of relief? Maybe it's both. What's it been like for you guys?
I think I'm dreaming now. I'm still not sure. I've woken up. No, it's incredible because the amount of time and thought and energy we put into this thing, it's really uncertain in so many ways, especially when you're really close to it. Like anything, I feel like, you maybe feel, you kind of see all these little flaws and everything in the work that you're doing, and then you put it out there, and it's kind of, it's scary. And especially when there's such a passionate group of people who I think are really waiting to see what's going to happen. So yeah, we were a little scared and excited because I think we knew we made something that's pretty special, and we knew we really liked it. And as fans of the game, we felt like we would respond well to this story. So it was a big jumble of emotions, and then to start seeing, I think, really overwhelmingly positive things roll in. I don't know. I can't even really describe it, frankly.
I feel very overwhelmed, to be really frank about it. I've been doing this for a while, and I got into this because I like words and I like stories, and it's really clear to me now in a way I don't think any of my work has made clear to me before. We're making something with Before the Storm that's connecting to people, and I have people writing me. Thank you to everyone who's writing me on Twitter or through my website or through Deck 9 website or whatever, and just saying, hey, man, this story affected me this way. Thank you for writing that. And it is the most extraordinary thing to be able to connect to other people through our work. And I think that is true for every single person at Deck 9. We are all kind of like holy shit, like this is incredible. And I think we were insanely excited about what we were doing 72 hours ago. And now I think we're even more insanely excited about what we're doing now.
Congratulations. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Over here.
Hi there, I'm Steve. I was just wondering, like 3 years from now or 5 years from now, somebody's going to play the very first Life is Strange game. And I was wondering what game you think they should start with, and if you thought about that at all when you were developing it?
We definitely set out with this game, one of the things we knew we needed to do was allow it to be your entry point into the franchise if you want it to be. If you just picked it up, maybe not even knowing what Life is Strange is, that this was a good place to start. We knew a whole lot of people, it wouldn't be their first game, obviously, but we worked very hard not to spoil anything from season 1 in our game. And we wanted to make sure that Chloe was a character that people could identify with and relate to right off the bat without knowing her as well as we know her after the first game.
I would agree with that.
Thanks.
Over here.
Hey, my name is Jason. So obviously, for reasons out of your control, you guys had to change up the voice actors for this game. Did you kind of struggle with, anytime we bring in this previous character, we have to find the exact same voice, or how did you approach this change?
One of the principles we took when we had to cast our characters was, including Chloe, Rihanna DeVries, who does Chloe's voice, when we were casting her and a lot of these other familiar characters, is we said we weren't looking for someone to do an impersonation. That would be wrong. It wouldn't feel right. It'd probably hit a kind of uncanny valley, that would just seem more jarring than anything else. Plus, it's important for those actors to be actors and to play that role and inhabit that role in their way. So we didn't ask them to do impersonations. It was great, when we found an actor who matched a lot of similar vocal quality, of course, but we just wanted them to be able to express who that character was, and that was our primary approach.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Over here.
Hi there. Are there any aspects of the first game that you felt like needed to be improved upon and that you think you addressed in the second game?
I think from a storytelling standpoint, no. I love what Christian and the directors, Michelle and Raul, and the whole team at Donut, I love what they did with Life is Strange. They changed the way I think about narrative in games with Life is Strange. And I think I think if you ask Christian, he might say, Christian Devine, who's the lead writer on the first Life is Strange, he probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he'd probably say there are things that he would edit more if he could. I think that's the thing that is true for us all the time. Just a certain point you have to be done. But when I look at Life is Strange as a whole, as a creator and as just a gamer, I fell in love with it. I thought it was wonderful. I wouldn't want to change it narratively.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we were looking at the things that worked so well in the first game and just trying to do as well or a little bit better. Can we make choices that are, just as difficult, just as agonizing, just as interesting? And can we do more of those? And how can we just sort of build on that? There was one very, very small improvement I actually do feel maybe we made that I think will be obvious if you're playing, at least if you're playing on PC, is I wanted to really change that mouse-driven interface with the clicking on verbs. So you'll see a different mechanic there. That's about as much as I can say.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? I mean, in that
Sure.
regard? Okay, because I feel like the criticism of the first game was that there was something amiss with the writing, like as far as like colloquialisms and slang. For example, like shaka bra. Like, there's a bit of cheesiness to it. And it's probably... And did you feel like there's a more stringent process in the selection of the writers in the second game? Like, because, Don't Nod is based in, is it France?
Yeah, Paris, yeah.
And the fact that it's probably because it's not their second language. Like, English is not their second language.
So Christian is an American. He's from Sacramento. So yeah, he's actually from NorCal. So I don't think that was quite the factor some people kind of think it was. No, I think, again, I don't want to speak for him, But when I watch and think about the language of The First Life is Strange, I see a lot of satire in it. I think he's deliberately exploring the teenage vocabulary with regard to intensity in the way that everything when you're a teenager is fucking intense, right? Everything's loud, your emotions are on fire, and you can't control. And so there's a volume to that period of life I see reflected in the cheesiness, the quirkiness, the eccentricity of the language in a way that I found pretty charming.
Quirkiness is the better term, I guess I would say. So thank you.
Thank you for your question.
And we are almost out of time, so the two at the mic will definitely get in. We might be able to squeeze you in, but no promises. Over here.
Hello, my name is Ryan. I wanted to know, are there any big surprises? Because the first game, it was building up towards like the big tornado, even though we all had like the big, like, oh, find 4 bottles and then shoot them all. Which took like 30 minutes, but like it was a big surprise that some big tornado was coming on because of all the choices we've made, and it was going to wipe out the town, or you could save Chloe. As we all know, like, oh, Chloe's going to die. Like in this one, like Rachel is like dead. Her father dies. She's
all the spoilers.
I mean,
It's
I
all
guess
in the
I have
first
to
game.
take the blame for this one since I was like, I didn't think you were going to go straight to episode 5, but you know, you could walk it back a little bit if there's anything left that you haven't said.
I want to know, is there like any else big that's going to be happening in this other than what we already know in the first story?
Yeah, I think good drama is built on card turns, surprises and twists, and we definitely are seeking to do that in Before the Storm. The story is a smaller story in many ways. It's a more intimate story. It's 3 episodes instead of 5, and there isn't a quantum storm threatening Arcadia Bay. So the context is just a little bit different, but absolutely, I think you will be surprised at several moments.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Over here.
Hi, my name is Kanan. It's funny you mentioned how like there's 3 episodes in this game, as I see a lot of stories or story games having 5 episodes. I just want to see like what was the difference about 3 episodes and how that affects like pace and how the story is, like how you had to deal with that.
When we were sketching out the initial story, we didn't necessarily have a specific number of episodes we were trying to hit. To their credit, Square gave us a lot of creative sort of ownership of the story, and so we got to talk about what kind of story. We just could start at what's the story we want to tell. And from there, when we figured out the shape of that story, I think we kind of felt like 3 episodes. You know, yeah, 3 episodes is going to be right. As you said, it was a little more intimate story, and that felt good. And because we have to make, you know, an arc for the whole series and an arc for each episode, we were able to identify what we think those individual smaller arcs were, and 3 episodes was just right for us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, we'll have to. The guys will be right outside afterwards. But we want to thank everybody for coming out to the panel and asking your questions. Again, please come to Unicorn tonight. Zach will be there. Our friends over at Astro have given us some really cool swag to give away as well, which will be up for raffle. Like I mentioned, the first 100 people there get 2 free drinks. So if you want a free drink, you should come by and say hi. It'll be great. And you can go to the What's Good Games Facebook page for all of the